to relentlessly pursue such control over the world that the primitive people will be wiped out. The African people will be enchained in slavery, so that once again Pharaoh can build monuments, building the United States of America with slave labor. It happened in Egypt, and it happened in the United States. With this introduction from Surah Al-Kahf of the two ages, we are now able to recognize this age. Let us go back to that age, when power rests on the foundations of faith. What kind of a political order emerged in the world in that qarn, when power rests on the foundations of faith? We have in Nabi Dawood alayhi salam a prophet who is a king. And we have in Nabi Sulaiman alayhi salam a prophet who is also a king, indicating that the prophets also ruled over a state as a king. That state was established in the Holy Land. It was known as the Holy State of Israel, not this impostor that is now squatting in the Holy Land. That state was an Islamic state, the Holy State of Israel. What is the dominant characteristic of that state? It is that the state was subservient to Allah in fulfillment of the function for which Allah created Adam alayhi salam. Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa, said Allah. I'm going to place on earth those who will function as Khalifa, who will act on my behalf. Not those who will attempt to take over from me and claim sovereignty for themselves. No. Rather those who will act on my behalf, who will establish my guidance, and who will enforce my law. That was the Khilafah state, established by Nabi Dawood alayhi salam, the Prophet David, and by Nabi Sulaiman alayhi salam, the Prophet Solomon. And he made a dua to Allah, Nabi Sulaiman alayhi salam, the Prophet Solomon, to grant that this might be the grandest state that the mankind will ever witness, that Holy Israel. In Holy Israel, sovereignty was recognized to belong to Allah. In Holy Israel, supreme authority was recognized to be Allah's authority. In Holy Israel, the supreme law was Allah's law. In Holy Israel, it was Allah who decided what was legal and what was illegal, what was halal and what was haram. Long years later, that holy state of Israel, after it had been destroyed, and for 2,000 years the Jews had been in the wilderness, long years later, the Jews have returned to the Holy Land with what they claim to be Holy Israel. Today's lecture will expose the fraud. But before we turn to this Israel, Let us look at one more instance in history when power rested on the foundations of faith. Is there any other prophet of the one God who established the state? There's only one more. And he was Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. What kind of a state did he establish? It was exactly the same in foundations as Holy Israel. There was no difference in foundations. Number one, sovereignty was recognized to belong to Allah. Number two, supreme authority was recognized to belong to Allah. Number three, the supreme law that was enforced was Allah's law. So exactly as Holy Israel. But there was a difference. The model of a state delivered by Nabi Dawood alayhi salam and Nabi Sulaiman alayhi salam was advanced to a higher stage. And listen carefully now as we describe the difference between the two. In Holy Israel, there were only two kinds of citizens. Those who had faith in Allah, and they were citizens of the state. And if you did not have faith in Allah, if you were pagan, you were not a citizen of the state. But now, when Nabi Muhammad ﷺ arrived in Medina, the Muslims are a small group. You have a community of Jews in Medina who far outnumber the Muslims. In addition to which you have a large number of pagan Arab tribes, many of whom are in competition and rivalry with each other. So you do not have a homogeneous polity, a population which is politically organized is called a polity, P-O-L-I-T-Y. Instead of a homogeneous polity, you have a plural society. The plurality was in the diverse religious beliefs and the multiplicity of tribal loyalties. How do you establish a state that would recognize and respect plurality in the society? Dajjal has presented what he calls a secular state. And Dajjal argues that the secular state it is which can embrace plurality and allow people of different religions and belonging to different tribes to coexist harmoniously. No, Dajjal. No. We did it. And we did it 1400 years ago in Medina. What Nabi Muhammad ﷺ did was to recognize the plurality of the society and to respect that plurality. Secondly, to recognize each group as a unit of a state to be established. And so the Jews would be a unit, and to the extent that there were rival Jewish tribes in rivalry with each other, each of those would be a separate unit. So the individual is not the unit of the state. This is not one man, one vote. No.